Welcome to episode 36 of the Press Box, the Examiner's weekly sportscast. Josh Partridge seems to be under the impression he's deserved some sort of annual leave, so he's not with us this week. But delighted to welcome back new dad Brian. Welcome.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Good. It's good to have you back. Plenty to talk about this week, from Cricket North through to Tasmania's involvement in 4 different national competitions. We're going to kick off with Cricket North. It was a good weekend for Westbury, Brian.
It was a cricket bonanza on the weekend, and Westbury, they achieved something big. They played in 3 different formats across 3 days, and they beat 3 different opponents. So, to start with, they beat Riverside in the 2020 Grand Final on Friday night.
Yeah,
it was a well-attended game. Riverside, as a club, put on a great night, a great event that had about 200 plus people there. And then on Saturday, it was the second half of Westbury's 2-day against Launceston, and they got the job done. They were in the box seat anyway, but they finished strongly. Yeah. A feature of that day was that Adam House and his 15-year-old son Christian played together, which was
always a lovely story.
Yeah, great story. And Christian, he got a bat and a bowl. So what a great thing for a young guy to be making his first debut alongside his dad.
Yeah,
and then
that's a good day for the dad as well. The dad would have been very proud.
Yes. So it was lovely talking to them afterwards. And then on Sunday, the Shamrocks beat South Launceston in the one-day semi-final and have progressed to the grand final, which is coming up this weekend. So what an effort. I think it shows you Westbury's depth. They, especially at first grade level, they have been at the dominant side of this competition in the recent years, but to achieve the result they got over 3 different formats was a great effort. But you were covered Sunday, Ben. What do you think?
Yeah, well, they've only lost 2 games all year, all summer. It's a remarkable effort. I spoke to Ollie Wood after the Sunday game. He was pretty tired, as you can imagine, having played in all 3. And he pretty much said, look, that sort of next man up that they've been able to produce so often is just the culture of the club, which is just so it's success has sort of just come with it, but it's more just they all love playing with each other, and it's all just because of how much enjoyment they get out of playing for the club and playing with their mates effectively. The results just seem to follow, and they just have players who just, no matter who it is, they know their role in the team and they know how to get the job done, and they're trusted to get the job done. And you look at a player, like Liam Ryan, who didn't have a major role to play for the first 2 games, but then takes 3 wickets in the semi-final, is a massive reason why they are going to potentially have a massive crack at, getting 2 on the way to potentially even 3 trophies this season, which would just be an amazing effort.
Yeah.
And also playing 3 games in 3 days, that's probably not ideal, is it?
No, and they played South Launceston in this one-day semi-final, who actually had the 2-day bye. And so South played 1 day of cricket as opposed to Westbury's 3 in a row. So, there's definitely sort of some question marks over the scheduling. And I guess, for me, I just don't feel that there's an incentive or there's encouragement to be making these finals if they're going to be played on, January 10, 11, 12.
Yeah. And
you're, as Westbury was, you're in the 2020 and the one-day final, and they're being played either side of your 2-day cricket anyway. So it instantly puts you under the pump in terms of your numbers, and obviously sore bodies and those sort of things. So Westbury's defied the odds here, but they shouldn't have needed to. Do you know what I mean? So
you got a solution for that?
Yeah. So I really feel that I like that there's a 2020 round robin that was actually played. I think it was the weekend of December 16 and 17 this year, and I think that there's number of games played across both days, and what happens is we end up with the 2 teams that will play in the grand final a few weeks later. But I think it should all be played in this one weekend. I think that's plenty of time to squeeze in the games that you need to, and if you want to have more, maybe play them on the Thursday or the Friday night leading up, and then spill it over the weekend too. But I think it just needs to be more contained than it is, and really last weekend I felt should have just been the 2-day cricket and the 1-day semi on the Sunday.
Yeah. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I think that also could even be a bit more flexible with the scheduling. Like you mentioned there about South having a bye. Maybe look at potentially, if possible, holding over the 2-day comp fixturing as late as possible. So then well, if Westbury are going to have 2 games that weekend, maybe give them the bye. It's just so to lighten their load, or if that's too difficult, then maybe I think Brian's solution is probably more practical. But I just think, say if Westbury had to buy this weekend, we probably wouldn't have been talking about it as much because they're playing a game on a Friday and a Sunday.
Yeah, and I guess that's all said with obviously the unpredictability of results, and
exactly.
We weren't to know that Westbury were going to make these finals. So, of course, all these things come into it, but it's probably just something worth considering over the off-season.
And just to further complicate the situation is you've got the Greater Northern Raiders. So Westbury are one of the sides that would provide players towards that. And John O'Chapman's been a good example in the past that some of their best players get taken away from them voluntarily. But, it's then very difficult for the club to adjust. So what they've done is remarkable, really.
Yeah, and they did it without their captain, Daniel Murphy, who's on his honeymoon. That just shows it's that time of year where people are on holidays and they're on honeymoons and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. We're going to move on to national competitions and Tasmania's involvement in 4 different national comps. Last night, we're recording this on a Tuesday morning. Last night was the Hobart Hurricanes' last fixture in the BBL. It was a bit of a dead rubber against the Melbourne Stars to see who would finish 5th. The Hurricanes actually got the win by 7 runs. So they finished 5th. They won 4 and lost 6 over the season. But I think it's fair to say it's another disappointing season for the Hurricanes. Ricky Ponting was on co-coms on Channel 7 and bleeds purple does Ricky, but he was getting into them, and in particular he said he thought the imports have been disappointing again, which is something we said about the WBBL as well. But another pretty disappointing campaign really for the Hurricanes.
Yeah, probably a little bit harsh on Chris Jordan. I thought he was okay. Yes. But Corey Anderson was a puzzling selection, I think, from the outset. The person is not even playing for regular cricket in America, so I don't really know where the thinking was there. And Sam Hain is just another one of these players who clearly is a very good cricketer that just hasn't quite come together for Hurricanes. It seems to be a very familiar story.
And we made the point, and again, this is mirrored in the WBBL, there's very good Tasmanian players who aren't getting much of a look in. But I guess if you spend a lot of money and give a lot of publicity to the imports, you then feel a bit obliged to play them.
And you look at something simple. Nikhil Chaudhry is not from Tasmania, but selected out of Brisbane grade cricket and was the Hurricanes' leading run scorer this tournament. Yeah. So it shows you that doesn't often matter how many runs you have on the board in which countries beforehand. Yeah. It's the person who can put it together for a few weeks, and don't necessarily need to go for these big names to make that happen. And
moving on to the WNCL, which is a complete contrast. Tasmania absolutely dominating that. They've won the last 2 titles. They've won every game they've played this season and won again yesterday. Good day for MMX Jeeves.
Yeah, second 50 in a row. 70 off 72 unbeaten. 7 fours along the way. Her and Lizelle Lee, who made 97 massive parts in that win against second place Queensland Fire. So it was a really big game too. MMX Jeeves is averaging over 35 since returning to the Tassie Tigers a couple of seasons ago. Just continues to get it done week in, week out. Even despite continuously probably not being looked at seriously for Hurricane selection, which
didn't get a look in, and yet the imports did, and one of them underfired considerably. Emma did not get a look in.
Yeah, but she can hold her head high. That she just continues to do what she needs to.
In the A-League, there was a big announcement yesterday that Tasmania will get 3 fixtures in the A-League, 2 in the men's, 1 in the women's. But we've got an issue that all 3 games are being played in North Hobart. These games always used to be played out here at UTAS Stadium. And prior to COVID, we used to get really good attendances. I remember going to a game, a pre-season friendly, that got, I think, 8,000. Harry Kill played here in a fixture. We got a very good crowd for that. COVID's hit everywhere, so basically no one's getting good crowds either end of the state. But it's a bit disappointing that we don't have a northern fixture.
Yeah, I've covered this issue a bit in the past, Rob, and I guess actually attending the game last year, I remember the 2 things that stood out was there wasn't a big crowd and the game was quite far away given that it was played on a AFL footy field. I know North Hobart is the same, but I just remember those being 2 challenges, and Yeah, it's a really interesting topic, this one, about the post-COVID, in-person viewing. Is it because of all the streaming services and the ability? Have we got comfortable watching things online, do you think?
I think so, yeah. The crowds have just been chalk and cheese before and after COVID. I went to an AFLW game at Utah Stadium. About 150 people watching it. It was a terrible attendance. So I guess it could be the streaming services. What do you think, Ben?
I think there's a number of things. A-League's had an issue, probably with fans rocking up to games everywhere, all over the country, not just in Launceston. But I don't think sport is as high a priority since COVID, to be really honest, to a lot of people who are probably on the fence about whether they were to go or not. Probably since COVID, it's just been the decision, let's not go, because you might get sick, or you might do this, might be that. So it's just.
But the one sport that is bucking the trend is basketball, and the Jack Jumpers sell out every home game, but they keep suffering narrow losses. I wrote a story this week. I don't think they've lost by more than 8 points, but
they lost 11 times though.
Yeah. So what's happened to the Jack Jumpers? Do you think, are they going to make finals?
Well, they're making. Scott Ross doing a lot of lamenting in the past week. They had a double overtime loss against Illawarra on Friday night at home. It's their 4th home loss in 5 games. Their 6th loss in 8 games. So since the international break, they just haven't been able to get going. Look, I think they will. They've got enough quality there. They're still 11-11. They're still 3rd somehow. I don't really know how, but they're still 3rd. And Scott Ross teams usually continue to get better as the season wears on. They're usually are so well disciplined that's the thing that usually gets them across the line. But they haven't shown that they've got a clear path out yet, so they're going to have to find a way.
Yeah. All good. That wraps us up for this week. Read all about all those competitions in the Examiner on the website and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.